Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Briie Tinashe, and on this channel we'll talk everything faith and career. And in today's video I'll be giving a testimony about how God saved my master's degree at university during my undergrad. So if you're interested in that kind of thing or in similar kind of things, then stick around until the very end. I thought I'd share something with you about how my university degree went, especially because there's so many people right now who are just finishing off their university career, and this might be of help to somebody, and I hope that it is. So I hope that you find this very useful, and I hope that you find this encouraging. If you don't already know, I studied the Master of Pharmacy degree here in the UK, and I finished the degree 3 years ago. I finished by God's grace with a first class. However, it didn't come smoothly. It was very difficult to get to. The whole journey was quite tumultuous. So it all started in my first year of university, and I had just started university and realised that my course was going to be 5 years long. So I thought to myself, well, I've got 5 years of uni, I may as well enjoy the first 4 and only focus on the last year, which is an absolutely ridiculous thought. So I picked up a bunch of bad practices while I was at university, and needless to say, it was quite the journey. I decided I was going to devote myself to living my best life. Girls just want to have fun, right? So I decided I was going to be at all the parties. I wasn't going to mess around. 9 a.m. lectures were a myth. I never made it to any of them. I never made it to a lot of lectures, actually. I kind of just missed them. I would always tell myself, you know what, I'll catch up on Blackboard. Never happened. Don't tell yourself that. And I just decided I'm just going to make it to all the parties. I was a social butterfly. If there was a party, I was there. If there was a motive, I was there. And the saddest thing about it is I don't even remember most of these things because I drank far too much for me to even remember what even happened there. So in pharmacy school, we have tests every single week. So we have a number of modules, and with each module we have a test every single week. That means you need to be on top of your work all the time. Obviously, with me not attending lectures and with me not really reading the work, I wasn't on top of anything. I would just read the work the day before the test, and then do the test, and then obviously not do that well. At the end of the year, we have to do a synoptic exam for each module. That means everything you've ever learned that particular year, for that particular module, you're going to get tested on a big exam at the end. So I had a number of modules to do at the very end, and a number of essays to submit for certain modules at the very end. And needless to say, because I hadn't spent much time actually doing what I was supposed to be in uni for, I was just winging it. I thought to myself, do you know what, first year doesn't really count for anything. I'm going to aim for the lowest grade possible, skate through and move on and continue living my best life. One of the modules I completely neglected was calculations. So in pharmacy, we have pharmaceutical calculations with formulas that you learn that are suited towards biochemistry. So what I didn't know, because I only attended one calculations module lecture, which was the introductory lecture, I never went to any of them after that because they were always at 9 a.m. So I didn't even know that this was not, like literally not the same thing as GCSE maths or A-level maths. It was completely different. So when I went into the exam, I didn't even bother to read. I didn't bother to even practice. I didn't bother to open a book. Honestly, I don't know what pride I had, but I thought I've got it in the bag. Walked in, sat down, had a look at the exam, and I immediately knew it was a goner. It was a complete write-off. I had absolutely failed it without even attempting anything because I didn't know what was going on. What are they even talking about? 2 + 2 is not making 4. What? So with that exam being a complete write-off, I had to resit it in the summer. But did I learn my lesson? Absolutely not. I passed that exam when I resat it, but when I came into second year, you would think that I would change my mind at this point, but no, I went even harder. When second year came around, I decided to amplify my chaos. YOLO was the motto that year. I don't know why Drake came out with that, but YOLO was the absolute motto, and like, as you can imagine, it was only worse than first year. So at this point, I joined the exec committee for a particular university society, and for some reason I put so much more effort into that than I did into my university degree. I don't know why I did that, because it just didn't make sense, but it's completely possible for you to be in a society and to also manage your workload, but for some reason I just didn't find the balance. And I think a lot was going on as well with my mental health. I was just really stressed. I was overwhelmed with all the work, and especially like when you're not doing any work for uni, when it piles up, you can feel it. So I tried to fill the void that I was feeling with motives, doing the stuff with the society, not going to university, just doing the most. And obviously it didn't work, and it came to a point, like things got so bad that it came to the point where I was reflecting on my life. Anyway, that's a testimony in and of itself, but at the end of that I gave my life to Christ, which was the biggest thing and the best thing to have ever happened to me. So I thought that Jesus was going to heal every single part of my life. I thought I was going to have my life all together, but the habits that I had formed were really, really difficult for me to kick. So I didn't actually change in second year in terms of like my the way that I was handling my university degree. I changed in many ways, but the way that I was handling my university degree just did not change. In fact, everything just got worse. When it came to exam season for second year, I literally gathered the few remaining willing brain cells that I had to make things happen. So at this point, I had so many essays to submit, and it got so bad and so overwhelming that I was literally choosing which modules I was going to fail on purpose, which ones I could afford to resit later on in the year. So I decided to completely neglect calculations again, and I was going to wing it and do it again in the summer. And then I decided to leave some of my essays till last minute and focus on certain exams because they were so much bigger. Anyway, when it came around to exam season, when I went into the calculations exam, I literally went in there, wrote my name, and honest to God, the rest of the time I just prayed for everybody else who was at the exam. I felt so guilty because people had worked so hard, and I was like praying for them. I was like, God, I just want you to bless them. I hope that their exam results are amazing, even better than what they expected. I literally spent the rest of my exam just praying for everyone else in the room. And then because it was a multiple choice question paper, which was the last of its kind, we never did multiple choice calculations after that. I literally just went around circling random, literally I didn't put no thought to it. I still hadn't learned any of the new formulas that we'd learned, that we were supposed to learn that year, because again, calculations were at 9 a.m. I wasn't waking up for lectures for 9 a.m, so I missed everything. So I literally just circled random letters and then sat back down for the rest of I did that in like 15 minutes, and then I literally just sat back for the rest of the time. So I had committed that exam to ruin. The next day we had a submission for an essay. I hadn't written it, hadn't even read the question, didn't even know what I was supposed to do, hadn't planned any of it. I literally stayed up for 24 hours straight just writing this one essay. Literally, I didn't eat, nothing. I just stayed in my room and just wrote an essay. It was like 2,500 words for an essay. Hadn't read the question, nothing. Just banged it out, did it, which was completely chaotic for my mind and my few brain cells that were left. I was so tired. The day after, it was supposed to be like a final year party thing that was going on. I didn't make it. I had so many missed calls from people because, as I said, I was always at parties, and I had so many missed calls from my friends. I just didn't go because I hadn't slept the night before. So a few days after the essay, we had to present a topic to some lecturers and to some students, and then for them to give us questions based on our topic and for us to answer them. I, again, had prepared very little, but this is the one that I prepared the most for, which again was very little. And I remember feeling very confident about the presentation. I felt confident about the topic. Everybody had presented theirs, and I felt like, mine's all right. I feel like I'll do pretty well. I went to the front. I was feeling super confident. I was the last student to give their presentation. Honestly, it came to opening my mouth and I was mute. Like, nothing would come out. I was like I was mute, guys. It was the weirdest thing I've ever felt, because it was like I was super confident about what I was going to present. I knew the topic, but because I hadn't practiced and I hadn't timed it, and I guess being just in front of everybody, all of a sudden it hit me and I was just mute. You know how they say that just rolls off your tongue? Every word tripped off my tongue. Everything was just tripping off my tongue as I was talking. I was stumbling on every word. I couldn't even get to the middle of my presentation. The lecturer stood up, stopped my presentation, said thank you very much. I had no questions from the crowd because he wouldn't even permit it. I sat down, didn't even finish it, and I was so embarrassed. If I could have gone red, I would have gone red. I was so embarrassed. I went home, I was crying. I was like, what is wrong with me? Why am I not taking this seriously? Am I not taking my walk with God seriously? Why am I not handling my life really well? I was so confused, and I decided this can't be it. When my exam results came out, I was expecting the lowest. When I was in first year, I think I was averaging 2.2 because I was literally just aiming for like 40%. Maybe it might even been like a third, or maybe 2.2. So when it came to second year, I was expecting about the same, and to my surprise, I had no resits and I was averaging a 2.1. That was mind-blowing to me, because remember, my calculations exam, I just circled things, I didn't even read the questions. That calculations exam, I got 85%. Bruh, 85%. How, Sway? I was so confused. Like, how did I pass that? I looked at my essay that I wrote in one day. I had a 2-1 with that one. I think it was like 67%, so it was pretty close to a first. And then I looked at my presentation. To be fair, that one, yeah, I think I had 40 something% on that one. It wasn't that great. But I remember from there on thinking, I am never doing this again. That was the most embarrassing, tumultuous year. It was the most depressing year. It was absolutely no, nada, never again. So for the rest of the course, I took things very, very seriously. I decided to move out of uni, go back home and commute to uni instead. Moving home was such a blessing to me, and it was so useful. I was away from the temptations that I had, and I was able to focus on my relationship with God and grow with Christ so much better. However, it did mean that I missed out on a lot with social life and everything, and that's a story in itself. So third year finishes and I've got a first class all the way around. I am motivated now because I'm thinking, if I can smash fourth year, I am walking out of this with a first class. I am walking out of this with a first, for sure. So fourth year, I took again very seriously. I was doing weekend working in a pharmacy. I was constantly reading. I bought some books to help me understand it better. I was tuning into the Khan Academy. I was taking things super seriously. So again, fourth year, I decided I'm going to be super productive and I'm going to be ahead of schedule with everything. So I submitted my portfolio 2 months in advance, and honestly that portfolio was like the bane of my life, and I mean that in literally the Batman and Bane sense. Like, it was the bane of my life. And then I submitted my dissertation 2 weeks in advance. I decided to focus on my OSCEs, my exam, and on my practicals. That was my biggest focus. Anyway, it comes down to doing my practical exam. On this particular practical exam, it was kind of like a station by station scenario situation. On some of the stations you can have your BNF, which is the British National Formulary. So this is a formulary which is a compilation of drugs that are evidence-based that we use in the UK. So on some of the stations you could use it to find certain information to answer the questions that were there. Just before this exam, the new BNF had come out, and it was the BNF 70, and I'll never forget it. It was not well received, especially not by me. So when I went into the exam, I opened it and the drug monographs had changed, and I could not find the information that I needed for this question. I was searching and searching, looking and looking and looking, flipping, checking I could not find this information. So I literally had to make it up, and I thought, let me just, it was a written exam, so I had to just blag it. I blagged it, and I thought, surely in there, something right will be in there, right? Anyway, I do this exam, we come out of the exam, we're all chatting, and then it gets to this question and everyone's like laughing and like high-fiving, like, yes, sis, yeah, I got that too. You know when you're just looking like, what are you guys talking about? Like, I was so confused because I got a completely different answer. I came from a completely different perspective, and I knew right there and then I had failed that exam. And the thing is, in your final year, if you fail an exam, you can't resit it. If you fail an exam, you fail the whole year. It's a complete done. You're done out here. And this was my first exam of many. So you're telling me I've failed my first exam. What is the point of me doing the remaining exams? What is the point? I was so stressed because I was like, there's literally no point in me doing any of the remaining exams. So then I go home, I'm really sad, I log onto my emails, and guess what? There's an email from a lecturer, senior lecturer, and he's like, hey Bridget, I didn't see a submission for your portfolio, what happened? How? I submitted my portfolio 2 months prior to this. I submitted it in advance. What do you mean? Anyway, come to find out, our course tutors were supposed to tell us that the platform onto which we're supposed to submit our portfolios had changed, but I didn't have a tutor, and I never had one in university until my final semester, because they would always get sick or pregnant or something like that, and then they'd go off, and I just never had one. So I had no idea that I had submitted it into thin air. Basically, I'd submitted it onto the wrong platform. So I immediately wrote an appeal, and they were like, no, you should have known. And I'm like, houseway, if you never emailed us, houseway. And because I lived at home, I wasn't there, I wasn't privy to the conversations that everyone else was having about any of these changes. So I completely missed that one. So you're telling me I've got 2 L's in one day, 2 losses in one day. Like, I was like, my university career is done out here. It's so sad. I have never cried so much. I literally cried so hard. I was like, God, I have done everything right this year. I literally committed myself to you. Why would you forsake me like this? I was distraught. But something in the back of my mind said, don't give up. Like, a still small voice literally was like, keep going. But I didn't have it in me. So I decided to dedicate myself to fasting and prayer. I fasted that whole week and I prayed the entire time. I remember like my prayers would be so heavy and so frequent, and I would cry so much. I remember the mainstay of my life at that time was Psalm 27. Psalm 27 was my prayer. 2 Corinthians 4 verses 7 to 8 was my mantra. Matthew 20 and Mark 9, where Jesus talks about faith, were literally my go-to scriptures. James 1 verses 6 to 8 was my go-to scripture. Deuteronomy 31 and Jeremiah 31 were my assurance that God was with me, he hadn't left me, and he loved me. And Matthew 28:20 literally was what I held on to, that God was with me, Jesus was with me until the end of the age. So I pressed on, albeit I was very, very sad, but I pressed on. But God, guys, I want you to tune into those two words. But God. Listen, every time, listen guys, but God was with me. Let me tell you something. Won't he do it? Won't God do it? God was with me. He never forsook me. A week after all of this had happened, I got an email. Bruh. 2 emails on the same day. One email said, oh, your appeal has been approved. You can submit your portfolio without any problems. Great, that means I passed my portfolio. Praise God. The second email said, this was the one that was like, listen, I needed a miracle and God pushed through. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but one of the stations that we do in that open book OSCE situation that I had failed, you have to use the internet to access the EMC, which is the Electronic Medicines Compendium, to be able to access information about particular drugs. This was the station right before the one that I failed. Apparently, on that day that we did our exam, at that very same time, the internet in the whole university went down. Now, when I was doing my part of the OSCE, it didn't really affect me. Like, I didn't even notice. But apparently, the internet just shut down, lock off. So they thought that whatever had happened with the internet on the previous station might have affected me on the next station. So they wanted to give me a chance to repeat that station and the next station. Won't Jesus do it? Won't Jesus absolutely do it? And he did it for me. I was able to resit that one with no problems whatsoever and passed it. God was able to help me go all the way from a 3rd in 1st year, all the way to a 2-1 in 2nd year, and a 1st class in my 3rd and 4th year. And I can honestly say it was only God, only Jesus. Not all of my stories have a miraculous ending. A lot of them don't, but either way, I always know that God is for me. That time when I was crying and I was low and I thought my university career was over, I felt the closest to God than I've ever felt in my life. I felt so close to him. I knew he was the only person I could rely on. I knew he was literally my source of strength. Not all my stories end up with this miraculous thing, but God is always for me. God has always shown favor for me. And even when he's said no to me, even when I've gone through pain, when I come out at the end of it, I can see his plan so clearly afterwards. So I hope this is an encouragement for you. Don't be doing what I did, being lazy, not trying your best. Use the opportunities that you have to the best of your abilities, because God has trusted you with that. God was able to come through for me. He is able to come through for you. There is nothing special about me. God loves us all. He is able to do it for you as well. And what I love about this story is that there is nobody I can give glory to. If everything had gone according to plan, I may have given myself glory for it at the end of my course. But now I can only give God glory for everything that happened. If you enjoyed this testimony, please do like and comment. It's absolutely free to subscribe and to like. Make sure you leave a comment and let me know if God has done something similar for you, and let me know if this was a blessing to you. And I hope this really did help somebody out there. And again, like, comment, subscribe, and if you like this kind of stuff, let me know so I can do another one and share more testimonies with you in the near future. Love and peace, everybody.